I had today's sermon all prepared. I worked on it before I left and worked on it while I was with Amanda and Glenn. And yesterday I worked on the outline in Denver Airport and thought I'd get up early this morning, which God did wake me up early this morning, to work on the PowerPoint. But I've had a question going through my mind all week. And boy, Lord, what are you saying to me? And in my quiet time this morning, He answered. So today's message is not going to be on Matthew. Today's message is going to come out of Psalms 55, so you can turn there. And I thought about that, and I told John and Bill I'm not sure where God's going to go this morning with it. Don't know how long the message is going to be. We might have to go back to worship Him again. So, Bill, I need you to get back up there and put up second to the last, faith something. I never remember the titles. John and I laugh about that quite frequently. Yeah, there you go. How have you walked this week? Leave it blank for a moment, Bill. How have you walked this week? Been walking, or maybe the past couple of weeks, been walking by faith? Been walking by sight, what you could see, what you could do, what you knew you could accomplish, the money you had, that you could make it stretch, the difficulties you're going through. Hey, it's not a problem, man, I can handle this, I'm strong, and, I've made it through difficult times before. How have you walked this week? I've been asked a number of times, why is it that God allows things to happen when I'm gone? I don't know. And why does God allow bad things to happen to His people who He says He loves? It ain't fair. It ain't right. If He loves me, by golly, He should be taking care of me all the time. Isn't that what God's for, to take care of His people? Whew, boy, we kind of miss the boat on that sometimes in our thinking. And what about His promise in Romans 8:28? And when we know that God causes all things to work together for the good of those who love Him, to those who are called according to His purpose. What about that verse? Yeah, I'm His child. Why isn't He doing it? And then I come and I sit down in the back, and I didn't make it to the back. There's flowers up on the podium. Kathy never puts real flowers up there anymore, because I have such a difficult time with real flowers, especially that close. I breathe in the pollens, and then I can't preach hardly, and I hardly can talk. And it's already affected me. And it's been a rough week in Indiana with everything in bloom, and boy, beautiful. I love the flowers. I just don't survive well with them. And then you start sharing. And I'm sitting back there, and I said, boy, God, now I know why You gave me Psalms 55 in my quiet time today. Now I know a little bit more. Isn't that the way it is with God? You see, we don't see everything up front. We don't know up front what's going to happen whenever. We just don't. But God does. And so open the slide, Bill. I thought this was and then we sing this song, and I'm thinking, man, God, You are just, You're sovereign. Do you realize that today? Do you believe in the very depth of your being that God is sovereign? Do you? Do you have doubts? Do you have doubts? There's some ways to check our doubts. Some say check your checkbook, you check your doubts. Ooh, boy, don't go there, Pastor. It's not about tithing today. But it's just, that's why I asked you, how have you walked this week? Did you know you could make it through the week? Did you take time and say, God, I can't make it? God, this is beyond me today. And did you really think He would be there to answer your prayers? Great song. By faith we see the hand of God. You will not, and you might never see the hand of God in plain vision. God is spirit, but we know Jesus has a corporal body, and even though He walked through walls after His resurrection, they put their fingers, He said, come on, Thomas, put your finger in my hand. We know he ate, so he's got a corporal body. We know that. And we want to see his hand, and we say, well, I need a God with flesh. So let me go rub Happy Hodo's tummy. That's one of the Buddhas. And we do things like that, and we make things our God. Well, God can't take care of this, so I have to do it. I don't know if I can trust God, so I'll just plow on through. I'll make it work. And we are not walking by faith. We're walking purely by sight. We're walking by the gods of the worlds that we have made. And we sing these great hymns. In the light of creation's grand design, I love the flowers, even though I make some of the allergies go crazy. I do love them. I love God's grand design. We went to an arborarium, conservatory we went to. We didn't make it to the other. And it was all about South American flowers. It was incredible. Just incredible to see. In Indianapolis, Amanda wanted to get Mom there. It's where Glenn's brother got married, where Glenn did the service. In the lives of those who prove his faithfulness, that should be you and I, proving his faithfulness to the world around us. You see, but if we're walking by sight and not by faith, what are we proving to the world around us? That we're capable of doing all things? I realized a long time ago I'm not capable of doing much. And I realized while I was gone, these questions, as Janice and I talked, she called me right away, called Peg, and because she couldn't find my phone number, I said, Janice, all you had to do is push send. And you would have found it there because I had called her. But she did, now I know how to do that. Because if you push send, it brings up your phones that you called. So I talked with her for quite a while, a number of times this week. She says, Pastor, why is it that things happen when you're gone? I question that too. In the lives of those who prove his faithfulness, who walk by faith and not by sight. By faith our fathers roamed the earth with the power of his promise in their hearts. That's a pretty key line, isn't it? I love the Gettys, man. God is really using them to write modern, current hymns about real life. With the power of his promise in our hearts, of a holy city built by God's own hand. That's straight out of Scripture. That's what the people of old were looking for. That's what Abraham looked for, a city built by the hands of God. Are you looking for that? Or are you looking to make your own little world? You see, as pastor, can I take care of every need? Absolutely not. I don't have the ability. I will go on vacation from time to time, although I got to tell you, I've had some difficulty thinking about that. Thought, man, should I be taking vacations? Maybe, that's not the best thing in the world. Let me tell you a few things that happened while I've been gone. 2003, Amanda's senior trip. A man that wasn't a member of our church. He was frequent sometimes not. Put Pete through a bit of great turmoil. Killed himself. And I was gone. Jason calls me up and he says, whoa, now I got a couple of issues. I took his shotgun away from him a year before that because he was suicidal. I gave it back to him about 2 months before he killed himself because he seemed to be doing real well. I'm trained in that stuff. I've written about suicide. I should have known. Well, that's where we get in it. I should have and I can and why and that's thinking. But I was gone. And then last year, we're on our cruise. Kathy Lyons and Gerald wanted us to go on that cruise. The last time Gloria and I spent with Kathy, she said, I just want to go home. She didn't mean she wanted to go home to her house. We knew that. We sat in the car and we were choked up and talking about it in the parking lot at St. Luke's. We knew that Kathy was going to die probably while we were gone. And sure enough, Kathy died while I was gone. Wasn't easy. I questioned God about it. And then on top of all the struggles and all the difficulties Janice and Neil have faced this past few years, I'm gone and her mom dies. I've talked with the Lord about that many times. I asked him for a moratorium on death after Rachel died because I had dealt with some 13 deaths in less than a year of people in the church whose friends died or relatives died. Harold and Kathy's fathers both died several months apart, and went through that with them. Rachel dying about tipped me over the deep end. Just it was all accumulative. And I said, man, God, what do you expect? How can I go on? How do you take this? You ever ask that question? You wonder how a pastor can ask that question? Well, we'll go back to our song for a moment. Because here's what we forget. And I think this is why God led me to Psalms 55 this morning. We will stand as children of the promise. I think we forget God's promise that He desires for none to perish, but for all to come to a knowledge of Him. I think we forget what Paul says, that for me to live is Christ and to die is what? It's gain. No, we say die is the pits. It's not right. People shouldn't die. Why? Do you want to live forever in the... We were talking about this with Amanda, and I don't want to live another 61 years. Can you imagine me with this body at 122 years? I have a hard time imagining me with this body at 80. I'm thinking, you talk about a walker, man, I'm going to need that bed that Kathy's mom got, and you're going to be pushing me around and motorize it by that time. Here comes Pastor Chris. Won't get me up the elevator, just dump him in. I cannot imagine that. I just can't. I can't imagine going on. And I forget sometimes the promise. But look at that next line. We will fix our eyes on Him, our soul's reward, till the race is finished, the work is done. We'll walk by faith and not by sight. And I ask you again, how have you walked this week? Been walking by faith? How have you been walking the last little while? By faith or by sight? I felt bad about being gone. I've questioned the idea of taking vacations. Amanda's and Glenn's pastor and I were talking about it Wednesday night after prayer meeting. And as pastors, we know that God's in charge. We know God has a sovereign plan. But still we question, why, God? Why? Why do we see these loved ones of ours, these people that you have called us to be an under-shepherd with, why do you allow them to suffer? Why has Peg had all these fears and these doubts? What if Chuck dies? And those of you, why? You got them. I had them. And on my dad's deathbed, he accepted Christ. And Chuck before, why does he want to wait till he gets worse? Because he wants to know if God's God. Yeah, really, bottom line, is God God? Do I really have a need for God? That's what some would say is a foxhole salvation. I don't buy it. I don't care if it's in the foxhole. I don't care if it's in the closet. I don't care if it's with me in the steam room. I don't care if it's on your deathbed. Salvation is salvation. And until they're gone, don't ever give up praying. Fix your eyes on the promise. Fix your eyes on Him who is the Savior and Lord. Throw your doubts away. I can't. Yeah, you can. Because greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. Greater is Him that is in me than that one that's in those lost people. Whoa. Yeah. Because who has blinded their eyes? The god of this world, Satan. He's blinded them so that they can't see the gospel. And so what do? Sometimes He's stuffed up their ears so they don't hear. So walk it, live it, talk it, do whatever it's going to take. Don't give up. Fix your eyes on the promise. Stand and let's read Psalms 55. And the question that comes is, why does God allow Christians to go through these trials? And pastors are not excluded. It's not up on the wall. None of this is on the wall because this is all where God was taking me this morning. Give ear to my prayer, O God, and do not hide thyself from my speculation or from my supplication. Give heed to me and answer me. I am restless in my complaint, and I am surely distracted. Does it sound like us? Yeah, it does. And maybe you stop there and say, oh, God, hear my prayer and help me to stop being so distracted from you. Help me, God. Because of the voice of the enemy, that enemy could be any number of things in your life. It could be a lost loved one. It could be your struggles, your trials, your tribulation, too much month at the end of the money, health issues. It could be all